Todd Barclay.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I just wanted to pick up on a few points that the previous speaker made and agree with them, and it sort of relates more specifically to the cross-functionality of some of the roles and the flexibilities that this Act brings into play, whereby the Chief Commissioner can identify and allocate the roles and responsibilities to a number of people, not necessarily under the former titles that they had before. And I think while Ms Delahunty was saying that, which I agree, I take the point that, you know, if you've got Race Relations Commissioner and women's rights and all these other very highly specialised roles, that without an experience and background in that particular discipline, then it can be difficult, or if not impossible in some cases, to perform the functions of that role to the utmost ability. I suppose the point I wanted to agree with that the previous speaker made is that a bit of diversity and breadth of experience across a number of different activities can provide to a positive sort of gain in terms of the undertaking of the role, and potentially, as long as sort of somebody's got at least some exposure in that space or background in that line of work across one of those, they can bring that skill and experience to another, to a broader cross set of roles in terms of highly specialised, the commissioners that are being talked about at the moment. So I'd have to agree with the previous New Zealand First member where breadth of experience across a number of different sectors and not just a siloed background can in fact enhance the Commission's joint ability to perform the functions and responsibilities that it's been tasked with on behalf of New Zealanders, both within New Zealand and on the international stage. Mr Speaker, as we know, the Human Rights Amendment Bill amends the Human Rights Act 1993 for two primary reasons. It enables the establishment of a full-time commissioner with responsibility for leadership in the disability rights space within the Human Rights Commission, and it also makes changes to the role and structure of the Commission to strengthen its performance. And they were the remarks I was just making before. I think fundamentally we believe that all people are born free and equal in dignity and in human rights. And as a parliament, and particularly as a government at the moment, we have to do the best that we can to ensure that all New Zealanders have the flexibilities and freedoms to operate in life without unfair pressure from anybody else who might be trying to influence their ability and freedom to live through their lives. I think just particularly looking at the disability rights aspect of this bill, Mr Speaker, where a full-time Human Rights Commissioner position with responsibility for leadership in disability rights will be established. The creation of this role requires an amendment to the Act, as it is currently only enables commissioners formalised leadership in two areas, which the first being race relations and the second being in equal employment opportunities. And this Act does not currently allow for the creation and formalisation of leadership roles outside of those priorities, such as disability rights. And I think, going back to the point I was trying to make before, trying to build in a bit of flexibility to the current Act to allow the Commission to tackle some pretty complex and cross-boundary challenges that we're experiencing in a pretty sophisticated world now, more so than what potentially would have existed in 1993 when the initial Act was established, while at the same time honouring our responsibilities to try and ensure that we are acting and we're allowing the Commission to act in the best interests. And I think it's a partnership between the government, particularly the Minister of Justice, and the Commission to ensure that we're appropriately covering our bases and providing for the ability to look after some of New Zealand's most vulnerable people in some cases, Mr Speaker, and ensuring that those voices of the various hats that the Commissioners will be wearing from time to time have a clear ear to be able to demonstrate their view through to New Zealanders. And I think just going on to back to the changes of the role and structure of the Commission, where it currently provides for full-time and part-time commissioners, it'll be changed to permit the composition of full-time commissioners only, Mr Speaker. However, it will allow a part-time commissioner appointment where it is considered appropriate, for example, because the most suitable candidate isn't available full-time. And that's another step that we're trying to take to enhance the ability to get the best people for the role, they might not necessarily be siloed in one particular discipline of human rights, but it is creating the ability to get people who are talented and multifaceted to become involved and provide voices. And I think some of the previous appointments demonstrate that, to heighten the relevance and the importance of the Commission is to try and attract New Zealanders who are respected by the wider public to perform those duties. And I think Dame Susan Devoy is probably a perfect example of that. She's widely known, and she coming into it with a well-known background already and performing a slightly different role as the Race Relations Commissioner enables her to be able to speak to a wider range of New Zealanders with the respect that she's already earned from previous roles that she's had in life, Mr. Speaker. And just another aspect of the Act is that it will no longer name the Race Relations Commissioner and Equal Employment Opportunities Commissioner. Instead, it will be appointed as, they'll all be appointed as Human Rights Commissioners. And I think that goes to the point where they're working cross-boundary and cross-discipline in a number of cases. Where you've got a human rights case from a strictly race relations point of view, sometimes there might be and involve sort of a women's rights aspect as well. So it makes sense to be able to have specialists wearing both hats to be able to tackle various problems that come about. I think importantly to note, there is no major change of the specialised commissioner role that is intended in this bill, Mr. Speaker. It's not to try and devolve the experience and the background of the various people that are appointed to these roles. For quite the opposite, actually, it's to try and enhance their ability to perform their role in an ever increasingly complex world. So, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to touch on the Commission's functions, which will be revised to better reflect its current responsibilities, and that just goes into part of the developing world and the developing way in which the Commission can operate and undertake its very important responsibilities and duties. And it's also the change in this Act are also being put in place in order to promote the development of new international instruments of human rights and to promote and monitor compliance by New Zealand in this regard and allow the government to better report on our performance in this regard, Mr. Speaker. The changes to the Commission will better respond to the emerging human rights issues and do so in line with the government's focuses around better public services. And while the role of the Human Rights Commission is an independent role, I think in terms of how the government's role that they can play in that regard is to ensure that the legislation allowing the commissioners to perform their duties is enabling as possible, Mr. Speaker. And just going back, as part of human rights more generally, and particularly disability rights, the Education Minister has taken a huge focus on special education since she's been the Minister, and by retaining the special education portfolio within education as well. So, disability rights is being filtered across government and the various ministers responsible for that space, right down to education as well. So, on that note, Mr. Speaker, I think I'll wind it up there and commend this bill to the House. Thank you.